Hello and welcome to Patroma Therapy, Season 3, Winter, Episode 4, Trains. Today we have a special guest, Mark, and he's going to share a little bit about his channel, which is called Mark's Station. He's got some really interesting videos and recordings of different trains, and he actually took the photo of the cover shot. So, welcome, Mark. What's going on in Michigan?
Well, today the weather's colder. It's I think it's 22 degrees Fahrenheit out right now. There's no snow on the ground. We haven't had much snow this year. A lot of rain the other day. But other than that, not a whole lot's happening here.
Well, in that cover shot, we see a caboose, which is the final car on a train, and I've learned a lot just by knowing you about the different types of cars. What can you tell us about the cover shot?
The cover shot is in Port Huron Township, Michigan. It's behind the municipality hall. It's sort of an homage to the area's history. There's a rail yard in that township about a mile away from that caboose, and that's their tribute, I guess we'll call it to the area's history. GT is the marketing name for the Grand Trunk Western Railroad. You'll see the letters GTW at the bottom right corner of that caboose, then a number afterwards. Railroads always numbered their rail cars for tracking.
Well, that's one of the things I've noticed about looking at your train videos is that you can look at a train and actually tell us about all these different features. So where did that railroad go from? The Grand Railroad, whatever you just said.
Grand Trunk Western goes from Port Huron, Michigan to I think it's East Chicago, Indiana, or even into Chicago.
Wow. Well, one of the famous rail lines that I became aware of a long time ago was in a story by Agatha Christie called Murder on the Orient Express. So it's a mystery story. And it starts off in Istanbul, and the Orient Express goes, out of Turkey all the way into Russia, I think. And there was a PBS special that Poirot made. This story about Murder on the Orient Express. So, you were telling me, Roman, about some train graveyards in Siberia. What is a train graveyard?
Well, there's the place where they keep all them Soviet trains gone out of service. When I walked a few years ago, I was there, and when I walked, I thought, that's not very much different from the people's graveyard. But just not to change the subject, let me talk about something more wholesome. Because when I watched Mark's videos, I thought, wow, this is very much like these videos people make about planes or ships, trains, planes, ships. I mean, they're all machinery. I love them all. And my uncle, actually, I forgot. I was going to tell you that my uncle was a mechanic, and but he didn't have a camera at the time, and we lived near the railway, and whenever the train comes, he says, well, look at this. And he made, I don't know, model or I don't know what. I was a kid, wasn't into it. But Mark, what is the attraction to it? Can you share this?
My personal connection is from childhood. I grew up in a small apartment building, and behind that a little ways was railroad tracks. I used to watch the trains go by. So I've had this interest as long as I can remember. The picture taking started, the one you're using is from 2013, but I think it was around 2012 was the first picture. But I didn't seriously get into it until 2015 when I got my own more professional camera rather than just my phone.
Wow, and you have also collected some miniature trains, and how did you get those? You just wake up one day, or somebody gave it to you as a gift? I know I have two younger brothers, and when they were maybe about 8 and 10 years old, we lived up in Virginia, and I remember my father got them a train set, and they built this board down in the basement, and then, for their birthday or something like that, they'd get another little engine, or they'd get some little trees. So when did you start getting into miniature trains?
Oh, my grandparents got me a starter kit, they called it, when I was 7 years old. It was a engine, caboose, and two or three rail cars. It wasn't like the one on your picture. It was Union Pacific Railroad. I've been slowly adding to it since I had it. It's a lot larger now than it was then. We had it in a spare room. When, after we I think that was I'm trying to think in my head.
Well, I know that what was fascinating to me about this whole miniature train set, of course, I'm a girl or a woman, I love to go along with my father and my brothers to the store and look at all the accessories, the little tiny trees and the little, what's the arm that comes down, the little arm that comes down to stop
the little
people,
gate thing they call it.
All those little things to me were fascinating. They were actually quite expensive, and we're in the month of December right now, and Christmas is coming up, and in Dallas there's a big mall called North Park Mall. And, of course, people are still trying to do a little Christmas shopping wearing their masks, but one of the famous things about North Park Mall at Christmas time is that somehow this miniature train society, sort of takes over a wing of the mall, and it is literally a fairyland of all these miniature trains. So that's pretty cool that you have your own collection.
Yeah. When I was a child, I was asking my mother to buy me this miniature toy train with a railroad, and it was operated by battery, I guess, and I didn't have it, but I still remember that toy that I never had. But anyway, I think there is something very romantic about train journey, isn't it? Just help me out here. I traveled a lot previously, but Mark, do you think isn't that the perfect opportunity to share some time with other people and have a chance meeting and this conversation about stuff with somebody you never knew before, like the way we do now?
It is. It really is. You get just walk around, meet new people. You don't have to worry about anything really. Yeah. So it can be really really personable if you're that kind of if you're open to that.
Absolutely.
I know that when I was in graduate school, I flew from Houston, Texas, into New York, and then out of New York flew into Paris, and I went with a friend of mine, and we got a 45-day U-Rail pass. And for about 45 days, you bought this pass, and you could get on any train for 45 days. So in graduate school, you were saving money, you had a backpack, and sometimes you're just eating like grapes and wine and cheese and bread. But I went all the way north into Stockholm and, up into Sweden, and then all the way down into Sicily. And I remember that, sometimes we would get off the train and go into the city and get back on again at night and just sleep on the train, so you wouldn't have to pay for a hotel. I remember when we were down in Sicily, the trains were kind of on Italian time. They were not very punctual. Now, in Germany, the trains were punctual. In Switzerland, they left on time. But I know that once we were in Sicily, plugging along, and it was going so slow, it left late. And then all of a sudden, in the middle of this field, it stops. And some guy gets out with his backpack and just starts walking off across the field. So I guess they just stopped the train to let some dude off. But have you been on some train trips, Mark?
Nothing like that, no. The only one I've actually rode before was the Huckleberry Railroad northeast of Flint, Michigan. It's a tourist attraction / museum. It's a narrow gauge railroad, meaning the rails are closer together than the normal normal North American rail system. Huckleberry Railroad rails are 3 feet 36 inches apart, where the normal standard size is 56.5 inches, which is 4 foot 8.5, I believe, off the top of my head.
So it's called the Huckleberry Railroad, because we did an episode last season about Mark Twain and Huckleberry Finn. It's called Huckleberry Railroad?
Yeah, Huckleberry Railroad. It's part of the Genesee County Parks Commission.
Hey, wow. Guys, we have, you mentioned the Easter Express. What was it? What kind of express was that? Easter Express?
Orient
Express. Yeah, and we have Trans-Siberian Express, which comes from Moscow to Vladivostok. It's 6,000 miles. I think it's the longest one in the world. Do you have something like that in the U.S.?
We got Route 66. It's a car.
Yeah, most of our long stuff like that revolves around the cars. The closest thing we have to a national passenger train is Amtrak, and its budget depends on Congress. It's haphazard, and there's even a conspiracy amongst train enthusiasts that there's money being thrown in from the airlines or other interests, auto industry or whatever, to try to defund Amtrak.
Wow. Well, I know the Orient Express is a long distance, train, and it was actually started in 1883. So I think 19th century is the key century for rail travel. But I think even now in the are we in the 21st century? Yeah, the 21st century, we're still fascinated by trains, and I would love to get ready. I would love to fly into Moscow and then take this train. It's a bullet train or some fast train that goes to St. Petersburg and then see the Hermitage Museum. So what is this train that goes between Moscow and St. Petersburg?
Yeah, it's very convenient. It takes you only 4 hours to get to St. Petersburg. But I've never been to St. Petersburg. I thought for a minute that you were going to come to Moscow and take the Siberian Express and go to Vladivostok. You know how long does it take? It takes you 9 days to get from Moscow to Vladivostok. Could you
great, we can get to know each other really well.
9 days or 10 days on the train, I think that's a bit overkill.
Well, right now we're in the Christmas season, and the Trans-Siberian Orchestra always has, they're appearing here, there, and yonder, and they've got a lot of famous, Christmas compositions. But yeah, the Trans-Siberian Railroad, that is a long one. It is the longest rail line in the world. How many days would be on it?
10.
10. Are you up for that, Mark?
I think I could do that.
Okay, well, I'm going to send you.
I know a little bit about that. So about that railroad, I know it crosses 8 time zones, and there's like a monument at the border between Europe and Asia. They'll stop there, let people get off, do pictures or whatever real quick, get back on, and keep going.
Yeah, wow, I didn't know you were up on trains around the world. I know that when I went to Portland, I think I sent you some pictures, Mark, of a train line that had been turned into kind of like a park, and some of the rail cars were like little tea houses or bookstores. And then I know Grand Central Station is a fabulous train station in Manhattan, and then there's a line that's called the High Line in Manhattan. It's a rail line that is no longer running, but it's elevated. So they put ice cream vendors and artists and musicians, and it's quite a tourist attraction. And it was also inspiring other people here in Dallas, maybe about 4 years ago. Some of the park and architect people got together and said, well, if Manhattan can have a High Line, we can too. So they took these overpasses that are near downtown Dallas, and they turned it into some parks, and there's some fountains, and really great stuff.
Hey guys, really I think you in the U.S. have the oldest train in operational condition. I guess it's in Washington. It's built in 1820 or something like that, like really, really old stuff. You ever heard of that?
Yeah, that's on display in the Smithsonian.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
But what fascinates me is it's still operational. How could they keep it like up for a long time? It's on 200 years and still works.
I don't think it works. I think it's in a museum.
I think it's static display.
Yeah, well, it's not working, but if you would like to start it up, you probably can.
You probably could, yeah.
Well, here in Dallas, not far from where I live, I can hear trains at night going by, and so Dallas is about half an hour from Fort Worth, and Fort Worth is sometimes called Cowtown because a lot of cattle are around there. So they round up the cattle at the stockyards, and if they put them on the trains to go north to whoever needs cattle, that the trains would come through Dallas, or they, I think trains were very important for carrying animals and also for carrying troops to the front. So trains are all over the place in history and literature, and even in the world of music. There, Townes Van Zandt has some songs, White Freightliner, and Johnny Cash has some songs about trains. I mean, we can talk about trains forever, especially me. Well, what closing thoughts do you have, Mark, about trains for this episode?
Well, since you're using the Grand Trunk picture, I'll tell you the Grand Trunk Western was a American subsidiary of the Canadian National Railroad. The original line was to go from Toronto westward to Chicago. The Grand Trunk Western's, the Grand Trunk Western is the American, I don't want to say counterpart, but the subsidiary of them. So it goes from where I usually go to for pictures, Port Huron, Michigan, the south end of Lake Huron, all the way to Chicago.
Wow. Well, I've seen some of the photographs you've taken, and there's a beautiful one that you have of some bridge. So we might do another episode about trains and also an episode about bridges if you're up to it.
I'm up to that.
Well, what's the final word from Moscow?
Well, just let's not derail this. I love trains.
Yeah, we are going to derail it. We're going to wrap it up, and I'm going to see you all around the bend.
It's a station stop. It's not a derailment.
Yep.
Okay, it's a station stop.
Got that.
Very good, very good. Well, goodbye for now, and see you next time.
Goodbye.